Tim Foster and CMU, thank you for your initial interest in proposal. It's great to work with you a second year. Let's give that team a round of applause. I'm looking to have my picture like Senator McCain did with the Mavericks when I reached that level. Bruce Benson and CU, terrific to have you here as well. Thank you. And then to my fantastic staff and the interns who really made this operate, I think, very, very smoothly. Let's give them all a And then let me thank you all for taking time, for putting some of your treasure forth, for participating in an open and interested way. And I want to also thank you for giving me a gift, which is a chance to sit back the last 36 hours, reflect, listen to my colleagues, learn from them, and just take, in a sense, the right kind of time out here in Washington. The wonderful there are many wonderful aspects to my job, the assignment you all have given me. But the thing that stands out for me most days is I can get very tired, but I never get bored because there's so much going on. There's so much at stake. That has another side, which is sometimes you don't stop and think and reflect and consider where your own point of view has you standing and where other people might be. And I think you've got a very good sense of the Senate. It's been said there are 100 ways to be a senator. Some days I think maybe more like 120, because a certain group of us are pretty schizophrenic. But there are 100 ways to be a senator, and I think you really truly got a sense of that from the wide range of committed Americans who happen to be United States senators that came in front of you. I do hope we didn't overwhelm you with everything that we directed at you. I would ask you to help us in the feedback you give us, make the conference even better next year. I would welcome your ideas on policy, on procedures, because often when you're first in Washington, you see the forest much more clearly than those of us who spend time here. I did want to also pick up on what I thought was Gene's more than guardedly optimistic analysis of where we are. We have had periods in our history we've been very partisan, we've been very divided. And it isn't that far in the past, as you point out, that we had a government shutdown. And yet a couple of years later, we put in place some very important policies that really benefited the country. So in that spirit, I did want to share a short list with you of successes we've had over the last 6 months that sometimes get lost in the debate about these big challenges that we face. We reauthorized the way in which patents are generated in our country. Now, for some, that's okay. That's who cares? Well, if we're going to have an innovative economy, patents are the way in which new products and services and ideas are protected and then implemented. And by the way, we're very hopeful, because of Senator Bennett's great leadership, that we'll have a patent office in Denver, which is in significant numbers of jobs. Gene mentioned the Budget Control Act, as did Senator Conrad and others of last summer. As hard as it was, we did hold our feet to the fire, at least put in place some policies that will force us to deal with the country's fiscal situation. And in the meantime, we cut some $500 billion in spending. And that's a lot of money, but it's a small step, but an important step. We just reauthorized the Export-Import Bank. Pat knows, for example, many of you are in the business world, the imports of the Export-Import Bank. It took a little bit of doing, took some education, directed at those who are new to Congress that don't understand quite how the international markets work, but that's been reauthorized. We directed disaster relief into many communities in America that were affected by tornadoes, hurricanes, drought in the case of our state. 3 trade agreements were passed last year. An important one with Korea and 2 additional ones with Colombia and Panama. Not without controversy. Those countries had full access to our markets. They were opening up their markets to ours. We passed the Jumpstart Our Business startups legislation, which will help the small venture capital-based firms and other small entities really get rolling more quickly. I think I mentioned that I served not only on the Armed Services Committee, but the Intelligence Committee, and in important ways, we reauthorized the intelligence community's functions that are crucial to protecting our nation. So there's a lot going on in the legislative world that you may not hear about that still helps move our country forward. And if I can just take a minute to talk specifically about Colorado, we've talked to some extent about regulation and lifting regulation. Well, in a bipartisan way, we lifted a regulation, if you will, in the ski industry that restricted how much activity the ski industry could produce in the summertime. And that ski area jobs bill was one of the few bills that passed last year. I worked with Senator Grasso from Wyoming and Congressman Hastings over on the House side, Congressman Degette. We were able to move that bill to the finish line. It took too long, but if you talk to those in any of the ski industry towns in the state of Colorado, they're excited about the potential of keeping people employed throughout the year, and that will help economic activity in that important sector in Colorado. So there's a lot going on besides the conflict that you hear and read about here. And I want to end on a couple of additional notes. I really like what Gene had to say about the fiscal challenge we face. And I really see this as an opportunity, as I said to you yesterday morning when we kicked off the conference. It's easier to go big. It's easier to build this architecture that includes spending cuts, fixes to entitlements, and additional revenue. And that's where I'm going to continue to focus my efforts, because I think that's the most important thing we can do as a Congress to help our economy and send the right signals to the markets and the business sector. I like what Senator Conrad talked about when he said 6% spending cuts, 6% revenue increases begin to compound in a virtuous way. They can create a virtuous cycle. I'm not sure I'm ready to go out and do the 666 plan, as he alluded to, but it's within our reach. And I'm going to be single-minded on the macro policy front when it comes to putting in place a Toll Simpson-like plan. I think you've got a sense also of the paradigm shift that I mentioned to you all that's underway. And we're grappling with this as legislators, as public leaders, as members of the Congress. Senator Coburn is powerful in the way he advocates for, as is Senator Conrad. Senator Murkowski and Senator Collins, of course, talked about process and procedure and taking each other at our word and building more trust. So the building blocks are there. But this, as I said, if it was easy, we would have figured it out sooner than we have. But that comes back to you all. And I want to thank you for taking a little bit of time to undertake or meet what I think is the most important job we each have as Americans. That's to be a citizen. That's to care. That's to be engaged enough so that your voices and your point of view are heard. And in particular, I want to thank the young people who are here. We're excited that you're joining us. I want you to know that I see you as members of the red, white, and blue team. And that's the most important team, because although we can be political opponents, we're, for God's sake, not enemies. We're all Americans. And if we're going to keep faith with those who came before us, we're going to have to remember that when push comes to shove. And I remain confident we will. And that's the promise I make to you, that I'm going to continue to do everything I can to work on behalf of the red, white, and blue team for the long term. And so it's been wonderful to have you all here. We'll mix a little bit when we're done. We've got a couple of announcements. I look forward to seeing you all, maybe not back here as much as back home in Colorado. But truly, thank you for being a part of this, and advertise for us, word of mouth. I know we're going to continue to build this great coalition we have with CMU, CU, and my office. So again, thank you very, very much. Thank you.